Hi, this is Katrina Sargent, owner and creator of DDollCustomCreations, and today we're going to be doing a football mom glitter swirl. As a proud football mom, this one I absolutely love. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you're a subscriber, welcome back. Also, hit that bell notification because I am uploading a new video every Wednesday. This tutorial can be used for epoxy users or Brite tone CrystaLac users. If you're new to tumbler making, please go and watch my basic tumbler tutorials for CrystaLac and epoxy. I'll link them in the description below, as well as everything else I use in this tutorial. To start out, I have a HOGG 32 ounce Hydrosport tumbler. I have prepped it and painted it white, and now I am just adding my base color for my glitter. So I just kind of spritz paint where you want your swirls to go. So once I have a base of the green, I go straight in the middle of where I want my gold to go, and then I kind of cascade it along that green. The glitter is not going to stay exactly here. This is just kind of a map for it. Be careful not to over spray this. You don't want any drips. Let this dry before moving on to glitter. I like to use CrystaLac's glitter glue. This is my go-to glitter method, and you're gonna need a brush. My glitters are Grinch from Peachy Olives, as well as Americano from Peachy Olives, and Champagne from Recollections I got at Michael's. I'm only using the champagne as kind of a filler. So first I'm going to add my CrystaLac glue. I add quite a bit, and then I kind of smooth it out. You're going to need to work a little faster than you would think, because if you're going to want to do both sides of your swirl before anything dries, you're going to have to kind of hustle. Once I have it on, you're going to then smooth it out, make sure you don't have any massive streaks or clumps anywhere. This might be kind of challenging towards the top if you do these Hydrosport tumblers, but if you just keep going over it with your brush, it will smooth out. And then I do one color at a time. So I'm going to go right in the center of my green to make sure it's full coverage, so nothing falls in that glitter glue and sticks to it. I want this to be solid green or solid gold in the middle. Make sure you tap off your tumbler really, really well. You're not going to want to tap it off again over any foils or paper plates, whatever you're doing to catch your glitter, because you're going to have glitter mixing. So now I am just going through and adding that straight solid line of where I want that gold Americano to go, and then slightly tapping it over the green. Remember, you are not going to tap off any extra glitter over all of that cascading that fell off your tumbler. You're going to get green in that glitter. If you're not saving that glitter, of course, just tap it off. But I prefer to go back and forth, and then when I'm tapping it off, tap it over a trash can or something that I don't matter if I mix the glitters. Like right now, I'm tapping it over somewhere else before I add some more. Now I'm just adding my green. I'm back over that tinfoil with the green. I don't have to worry about gold falling into it. So at this time is when I'm going to be trying to blend the two colors together. So I slightly shake it, tap it into that gold, and I'm going to do the exact same thing with that champagne, because it's a smaller cut than the Americano. It kind of fills in little gaps and little spaces. I don't add the chunky mixes on my bottoms, so if I have a finer cut I'm adding on the top, I will then add it to the bottom. Once that glitter glue is dry, I'm going to take some wax paper and then try to lay that glitter as flat as possible. If you're using epoxy to attach your glitter, you're going to do this fairly quick. You're not going to let it dry. After it's dry and after I've laid it flat, I'm going to seal my glitters in with CCDIY Quick Coat. You can use E6000 spray, you can use a clear spray paint, or CrystaLac's Extreme Protection. You're just trying to seal those glitters so that it doesn't travel once you get it on the turner. But remember, each color is going to then travel, so you need to wipe off your hands when you are doing this. So I do individual colors, and then I do it in the section where it's blended. If you are doing Brite tone and you use clear spray paint. You're going to have to let the aerosol spray paint degas for 48 hours before you bright tone. You don't necessarily need to do this step if you are doing epoxy. You can just seal it really, really good. But I found when you start doing your leopard spots, the glitter sometimes sticks to the other glitter. So I just like to put thin coats between the next step, which is the leopard spots. This is cured and I'm moving on to my spots. I am using Peachy olives for both of those. And these brushes I got at the Dollar Tree, one's an angled brush and one is an eyeshadow brush. I am using Mod Podge, but you can use whatever glue you would like. So I kind of just start on one area and then move up the tumbler, or vice versa, I move down. This is just for convenience, so I have things flowing the same way. So all I am doing is getting some Mod Podge on my brush and making somewhat oval shapes, but I'm letting the brush kind of do what it wants. I'm turning my brush as I'm daubing it onto the glitter, so I'm not getting the exact same shape over and over again. You need to remember you need different sizes. So I like to make some small ones. I like to make some larger ones. I also decided to make a few football shapes in my leopard print. You do not have to do this at all. This was just an idea I had, and I thought it turned out pretty cute. But if you're just going to do straight leopard, just do straight leopard. So once I have probably about half of the tumbler, I'm going to then add my brown glitter. So just add your brown glitter before your Mod Podge dries. If you're kind of slower on adding the glue on the spots, you might not want to add as much because it can dry out on you. Just kind of go at your own pace, do your spots. Remember, this is all completely random. There is nothing symmetrical about leopard print. And then once I have all of my brown on, make sure you tap off your loose glitter, but then you're going to let it fully dry before you move on to brushing off the extra glitter. This is key. If you try to brush off the extra glitter too early, you're going to brush off some glitter off of your spots. I wait about an hour until it dries, and then I'm going to take a chip brush, or you can take a blush brush. Those work really well too. And you're just going to brush off all the extra brown glitter. You want all of the extra glitter off, but you still want to be somewhat gentle around your spots, so you don't remove any glitter from the middle of your spots. Once you have it completely off, you're then going to be able to move on to your black outlines, which I mix half black acrylic paint with half Mod Podge. It just makes it a completely opaque black outline before you add your glitter. This is where that angled brush comes in so handy. So on those football shapes I created, I'm gonna make the full outline around. So the other ones, I just take a little bit of paint onto that brush and then I randomly add outlines. I am not going to do full outlines on all of them. I do maybe one line on some, 2 lines on another, 3 lines on another. This is completely random. And then I add a few small dabs and small spots to fill in all that extra space. The thicker your black line is, the more defined your spots are going to be. But if you like more of that really, really fine look outline, I suggest go really slow on this, because once you add that black Mod Podge, you can't take it away. So when you add your lines, just make sure you're being diligent about that and you're thinking before you actually put it on your tumbler. You can fix it by adding more brown, but it's easier to try not to make that kind of mistake than to try to fix it. as you can see, I'm only doing a handful of spots with the black before I add my glitter. This is just to make sure that Mod Podge does not dry. When you mix it with the acrylic paint, it does dry a little faster, I found, but if you just do a few and then add your glitter, don't brush off your glitter until everything is dry. Just kind of work around it. So that's why I suggest starting at one end and then working down. I do find going from the top to the bottom when I am doing the black outline is what I normally do, but if you find it easier going the other way, go the other way. If you look at a leopard print, there's plenty of spots that are just partial spots in a way, so it's just like the looped black and no middle color, or there's two, looks like commas or semicolons together that kind of form part of a spot. I'm kind of just randomly adding those into my pattern. And then I let this dry for about an hour or two before I brush off all the extra. So once you have everything brushed off, then you're going to need to seal this really good before you add it back to your turner. If you don't, you could potentially have glitter that travels and floats to another section that you don't want. So I use clear spray paint and seal this 2 to 3 times before moving on. If you're using Brite tone, like I am, you have to let it degas 48 hours. Once that is done, then you go into epoxy or Brite tone until you don't feel the glitter. Because we're going to be sanding before we add our decals to make sure it's fully smooth so you don't see any bumps or ridges under your decals. If you were using these Hydrosport tumblers, I found if you kind of pinch your thumb and your finger along the edge, you can get that lip really well. If you are epoxying, you're going to want to remove your tape from the threads 45 minutes after epoxying. If you're using fast set, roughly 10 minutes after you apply your fast set. If you're using Brite tone, you can leave that tape on for a couple coats and then re-tape it before your next couple. And once it's cured, whichever product you are using, you are going to then sand. So I'm using a fine grit sanding block, and I am just buffing it out to make sure it is completely smooth. So when I lay my decals, I'm not going to see any bumps under my decals. When you're sanding, if you happen to notice a little ridge or a little spot that is becoming silver, stop sanding. That means you've sanded off some color off some glitter. So take a craft knife and cut it away versus keep sanding. So now I'm going to add my laces onto my footballs I added into my pattern. So this is just white acrylic paint and a small paintbrush. You can use paint markers if you have them on hand. And I'm just creating little laces. So I'm just doing 3 or 4 little lines and then a line to connect them. You might need to do a second coat if you're not getting full coverage with your paint. Here I have created a listing on Etsy that comes with field lines and the decal split into colors by SVG, or you can print it off a JPEG that is also available. So they are already measured. I have them 11 inches long. I'm going to cut that out in white vinyl. My decal I have split up by colors. So it's going to come grouped. If you ungroup it, you can divide it up into colors to cut it to exactly the color of vinyl you're wanting. I also made the background a gray, but we're cutting it out in white. Here are all my pieces cut out. I'm going to lay my lines first, and then I'm going to explain to you how I layer this many layers of vinyl on a tumbler. So I'm just using contact paper. I have it as a wide enough piece that I'm going to have a nice overhang. This is what's going to be key for laying this vinyl is the hinge method. It's just so you can kind of see where you're going to place it before you permanently put it down. So the reason why I absolutely love contact paper is you're able to put that contact sheet back over your weeded vinyl on the wax side and it doesn't stick to it. So when you're doing the hinge method, you want that extra transfer sheet to hang off your backing, just so you can reposition it and see where you want it before you remove the backing. Play around with it. Since this is a spiral, it's not going to be 100% even on both sides of the filled lines. So once I like where it's at, then I slowly remove the backing as I work my way up. You also need to think about filled lines. The numbers face into the filled, so into that green area on my tumbler. So you're going to make sure you have the correct side on the correct line. So I did wrap the overhang on the bottom. I did remove most of those lines just to get it off the bottom. So when I am doing the hinge method onto a tumbler with this many layers, you're going to want to have a nice overhang for you to hold on to. So you're going to start with your very bottom layer, add it to that transfer sheet that has plenty of overhang for you to hold onto as you're doing the hinge method. Just mess around with it until you find it centered and where you want it on the tumbler. Then you're going to then make sure that overhang is fully attached before you remove your backing, and then fold it back over the tumbler and then remove your backing once it is fully adhered to the tumbler. You're going to take that same transfer sheet and you're going to do the next layer. I then put that contact paper back on it so you're not touching that vinyl down onto your decal before it is layered correctly, until you have messed with it, moved it, made sure everything is lined up correctly. And then you're going to make sure that overhang is fully secure as you hold it with your hand, and then fold it over onto that first layer. I do get a smaller piece of transfer sheet for these smaller sections. It's a little harder without having more of an overhang to hold onto, so just be careful with that. It's smarter just to keep nice big size so you can hold on to the extra transfer sheet so nothing moves and you don't have anything not 100% lined up onto that back white layer. When I created this, I created the football to have a knockout of the M, so it is very easy to line those up easily. You're gonna notice I cut out my bling in a reflective holographic vinyl. That's why I created them all in individual colors, so you can change the colors, you can change the type of vinyl you're using, whatever you would like to do with this SVG decal. And since I'm a little extra, I'm going to be adding gold flake onto the tumbler. So how I add that is I'm just going to take Eileen's Tack It over and over again and add it on with the paintbrush in random places. And then I'm going to tap on my gold leaf till it sticks. And once it sticks, I then take my hand and gently rub away the extra. With this Tack It, once you put it on, it's going to be milky white. You have to let it dry before you add your gold leaf. So once it is clear, that is when it's dry. So sometimes it's kind of hard to find where it actually is. So that's why I kind of take a gold leaf and tap it around the areas I remember putting it on, so it will stick to that areas. And then I just take my fingers and tap it down. And then once the glue is fully covered, I then take my hand and kind of rub off any extra. If you're using epoxy, it's best to seal this with CCDIY Quick Coat on the gold leaf, or your epoxy can expel. So then you just epoxy or Brite tone until it is glass smooth. I hope everyone liked this tutorial. I hope you learned something new. If you have any comments or questions, please write them in the comments. I do write back. Please like, share, subscribe. It means the world to me. And thank you everyone for your continued support.